We've been talking a lot about the college football personnel cycle, coaching cycle, carousel. It's kind of moving, not fully moving, you know what I mean? But that's what we've been on. And we were trying to figure out, topics to talk about today. Ryan was going back and forth. And, a general question that is often fun to ask is, what is the best job in college football? And for a while, it felt like the consensus answer was the University of Texas. Access to players, huge amounts of money, and while the boosters could be annoying, the pressure level on the job isn't nearly as high as I think was advertised. Florida was always up there again for somewhat similar reasons, though the pressure game was a little bit different. I had always spoken for a long time about LSU because of the ceiling at LSU, the pressure not being Alabama level pressure. That one was up there. USC is a job that people have brought up. Ohio State is definitely one that comes up in the conversation. Georgia, now that Atlanta seems to be the football epicenter, right? Like up there with Miami in terms of the types of players that it produces. A lot of schools that had long been up for discussion of what is the best job in college football. And I think we now have a definitive answer for what job is the best one in college football. And that answer is none of them. They all stink. You can get rich at all of them. But at this point, every single job stinks. I think that we are reaching a point now where the career span of a coach is going to be more like coaching in the pros than coaching in college. Now, look, we've long been in a place where you needed to start showing some real signs and progress by year 3, or you were going to be out of there, right? But getting fired at LSU after 3 seasons where you won 29 games and then a season with 3 losses to teams that are currently in the top 10. That's different. That is different. And I've got to wonder. I mean, first of all, let me explain in part why I believe that we're at this place now where basically all these jobs are like kind of sort of the same and like not being good. You hear a lot of discussion about how NIL has leveled the playing field. And I don't fully agree with that. What I do think that the NIL era has done is it has raised the ceiling on what is possible at certain schools. So, for example, the ceiling has changed at Texas Tech because it's more likely that they can get an amazing player or two and then put that together with some magic and, a little scheming. And now this is a team that, for whatever reason, can be in the top 10 in ways that it had done before, but not, come on, not really. I think that is what it has done. Now, the one thing I don't know, and Ryan, maybe you've read something about this, but Indiana is our great success case right now, but that does not feel like it is the result of NIL greatness. Like maybe that's part of it, but it's still kind of Signetti and all these guys that he brought with him from James Madison.
Yeah, that's transfer portal greatness.
Yes.
The NIL great. I wouldn't say greatness would probably be like something like Texas Tech is a good example of it. Like that, that billionaire is clearly just putting infinite numbers into the roster. I mean, Ohio State had the big roster figure when they won the national championship last year, but like the success, it used to be like year 4 was the expectation. Now it's going to be year 2, year 3 because of the NIL and
because you could turn the roster over.
Correct, so much faster.
So much faster. But my thing is this, and I'm curious what you think about this. I still think the jobs at which you can do the most winning are still going to be the jobs that were always the ones.
Correct. The most consistent winning, I would agree.
Yeah. So like I've seen the argument that the difference between Florida and Ole Miss as a job is not that great. And you're never going to get me to believe that. Like it is more likely that Ole Miss can put something together to give Florida a run.
Right.
But you're not going to convince me
The
that
gap is, I think the gap is smaller than it used to be, but I think that Florida is still Florida.
Yeah. The best job in the country before Ohio State, I mean, before the NIL era was Ohio State. And it is now Ohio State and will continue to be Ohio State because, again, want to is the biggest factor here. And you will see the NIL stuff catch up. Some schools are going to be slow to get there, but once they're going to realize, like Pat Forty talked about this with Florida State, all their allocation toward facilities. You spent money on facilities when you couldn't spend money on players because what you did was lure them to come to campus anymore. Now you pay them to come to campus. So you don't do that. Like the best schools for winning at are going to be the same. The problem is everybody's going to expect to win now in a way that everybody did not expect to win before. And the expectation of winning for the schools at the top is going to be so much greater that none of these jobs are going to be good. You saw in college basketball that once this era started, all the legends started walking away. Jay Wright, Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams. I think there are more that we could point to who looked around and were like, hey, baby, this ain't my kind of job. Nick Saban looked around and was like, hey, I don't think this is what I want to do.
I'd rather get up early and sit next to Pat McAfee than coach.
Yeah, like we got to figure out this Sarkisian thing. The idea that his name was floating by the Titans and his representatives say absolutely that did not happen. However, that job seems really miserable to him right now. And I could understand how it would be. Patience is gone. And the idea that you do a job that involves working with young people, but patience is not an option, that sounds really, really stressful, right? Everything you have to be patient, but you can't be patient. Like, how exactly are we supposed to get the job done under those
probably
circumstances?
the biggest named recruit in the last 25 years.
Yes.
They went to, they're national championship runner-ups. They've had all the success in the world, and he seems very tired of it.
Yes, all of it. Like, none of these jobs are good. What used to be the job to get is the job Mark Stoops has at Kentucky. A basketball school where if you can win 9 games every now and then, but keep it between 7 and 8,
just don't be embarrassing.
You can work there forever, and maybe they'll build a statue of you. Leonard Hamilton did that at Florida State in basketball, right? Just look, don't be bad, and everything will be okay. And I think those days are over. Like, I look at that dude Fleck at Minnesota, who's going to consistently give you 8-9 wins at Minnesota. How long is Minnesota going to look at Indiana and be like, hey, so what you got?
Matt Campbell at Iowa State, someone who was rumored for, pro jobs, and he's been stuck there forever. Now they might try and run him out of there.
So let me ask you an interesting question about that one. No conference wants to look like it's small time, right?
Right.
But I think that we all acknowledge that the Big 12 is, of the 4, it is number 4.
Right, and this is with them trying to be forward thinking. Like they know they act like they're the small kid in town trying to get attention any way they can.
They feel more like what the Big East was in the power blank, the power 6 at that point. And the bottom line is they don't have the right real estate, right? Like they have schools in Texas, but Texas and Texas A&M are taking players to another conference. They're not. The real estate has never been great for the Big 8/12. It never has been.
And then the 2 best schools got out of there.
Correct. But it's never been worse than it is now, right? Like, they don't have it. They over there, I think that that's maybe the one place where you could have some more realistic expectations because you can only take this but so far out of this conference. Like, that's my thought. But SEC, Big 12, all those jobs are bad. If Vanderbilt is out here holding together a top 10 season, your job just got bad anywhere around there because nobody's trying to hear that you can't do it. If Indiana is a top 5 school, nobody's trying to hear where you are that you can't do it. Like, you're going to get your check at these jobs. You are going to. But I don't even know really what a personnel market looks like if these coaches are going to be really getting tossed out of here after 3, 4, 5 years. Like, sometimes a rebuild is supposed to take 2-3 years. I don't even know how you're supposed to build the culture that's supposed to be the important thing if the players are turning over so fast. Like, none of this is going to make any sense. None of it is. Are we going to start rotating younger coaches in more? Is it just going to be a longer lifespan of retreads because you're going to need somebody that can get this up and going off the ground immediately? Can you afford to take the time to go through some growing pains? Case in point, Marcus Freeman. there were some growing pains in getting there, but they
He
got
dropped
there.
some bad games.
He did. But that's going to happen. Do you remember when Dabo Swinney was terrible?
Yes.
Like the old takes exposed guy who generally doesn't bother me except when he's talking about me. But anyway, he used to go harvest all the Dabo takes. And I'm like, brother, were you there? Like, this was not a bad, this was like talking about Josh Allen early in his career. No.
I was at the game where that flipped. It was,
yes.
that was the LSU Clemson Taj Boyd throw it up to DeAndre Hopkins game.
That's right. But Dabo was doing, it takes time for a young coach to get there. How hard is it going to be for those young coaches to get the time to turn the roster around? Like, this is about to hurdle out of control in so many ways. And the only thing that'll make it okay or somewhat interesting is that college football's most wonderful, entertaining quality is chaos.